The internet is upset with a lot of things. It can honestly be hard to keep up with what they fake mad about, seeing as it changes month to month, week to week, and day to day sometimes. One thing that hasn't been hard to miss is the narrative that's formed around HBO Max's new animated series, Velma. According to their wiki, it's an American animated mystery horror comedy series based on the character Velma Dinkley from the Scooby-Doo franchise. I love Scooby-Doo. Who didn't grow up watching this classic? And even if for some odd reason you didn't, at bare minimum, you recognize this franchise when you see it. The thing is though, I love Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy-Doo. I never gravitated much towards the rest of the gang, so when the show was announced, I never made a mental note to check it out when it dropped. Velma just never really did it for me. I understand she was vital to solving mysteries in the show, but she lacked that charisma that made her a fan favorite for me. When I think of Velma, I think of nerdy-ish jinkies and sexy cosplays where women showcase the deadly combo of her famous orange sweater in combination with an ultra mini skirt so they booty hanging out on Instagram. And don't act like you never seen it. This outfit is popular every year around that time of Halloween. They be bent over with the magnifying glass so you can see all of their jinkies. You can't help but wonder, what episode was this? And then that's when your friend comes walking by and he looks over your shoulder and he sees what you're looking at on your phone and he says to you, "No!
Go to horny jail."
Now, as a frequent user of Twitter and TikTok, it's hard to ignore all the discourse surrounding Velma. I've had countless videos shown to me on my For You page about it being trash, and I've seen plenty of Twitter threads echoing the same sentiment. Yet, I still refuse to watch the show because I just wasn't that interested. This is due to the fact that most people on the internet are not capable of articulating their issue with the show. Most of what I saw was, "This show is trash." When I see such limited vocabulary used, I tend to ignore whatever they talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, that's just the internet being the internet. Then I saw a TikTok from an Indian young lady claiming that one of the show's main issues is not Velma, but instead the show's creator Mindy Kaling producing a lazy comedy that portrays every Indian stereotype. I'm like, okay, now we're painting a picture. The final straw for me that made me want to check out this show was, I seen a tweet from Cartoon Base that read, "Velma is the #1 worst rated animated TV series on IMDb with 1.3 out of 10 stars. Do you think this series deserves this rating?" Immediately, chills shot down my spine. It reminded me a lot of when Morbius was the #1 ranked movie on Apple TV. So I logged into my HBO Max account, and I set out to form my own opinion on Velma. I wanted to know if this show really was as bad as everyone was saying. And after watching a few episodes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to report that it is.
What? No way.
Now, seeing as I am a black man, or Black Saiyan, whatever the hell you want to call me, I'm gonna stay away from the whole Indian stereotype accusations, seeing as I don't come from that culture, therefore I am not qualified to speak on that topic. The good news is I don't need to speak on that topic. The show is that bad. It's actually baffling. Currently, there are 4 episodes out at the time of this recording, and I can only stomach 3. That's saying a lot considering the average runtime for an episode is 25 minutes. That's an hour worth of content available right now. Not a huge time commitment, and I still couldn't do it. I barely made it through 3. Within the first 2 minutes of the first episode, I understood all of the hate. This show is tacky. Velma is not Velma. Velma is a vessel for Mindy and her thought process. Everything from her terrible humor to her insecurities are projected onto this character to the point that you're sitting there wondering, how is this greenlit? Scooby-Doo is a legacy franchise. Anytime you play with a legacy, you have to accept that you are working within certain limitations. It's okay to reinvent a character and add new flavor to it, but you have to keep certain core elements in place so you don't risk pissing off fans, especially a show that has fans that span over 5 decades. Good examples of characters that have been reimagined are Miles Morales and Thomas Wayne from the Flashpoint timeline. People love Miles because although him and Peter come from different walks of life, what the two have in common is they are young men trying to navigate the world while also adjusting to being a superhero. If anything, Peter and Miles prove you have more in common with your neighbor once you get past skin color and you just talk to one another. Add in the fact that Miles wields the power of electricity, and now you have a character that felt familiar, but he was still his own thing. And then there's Thomas Wayne. In the Flashpoint timeline, Bruce's dad is Batman. What Thomas's Batman has in common with Bruce's Batman is they both use fear and their resources to get the one up on their enemy. Where they differ is Thomas isn't the genius that Bruce is, and Thomas is also darker and willing to kill, shown with his use of guns. Once again, these two characters have core elements in common, but some alterations were made to spice things up for Thomas promise, thus people still like the character. From what I remember, Velma was all about solving the problem and supporting her friends. HBO's Velma seems like they took every corny Gen Z writer that's new to Hollywood and is also addicted to TikTok jokes, and they put them in charge of writing the scripts with Mindy at the helm. In the first minute of the first episode, Velma makes a joke about white men struggling to inherit power. That doesn't even sound like Velma. I watched 3 episodes and I didn't laugh once. I can't stress enough either that I did not come into this to hate on this show. I kept an open mind. I told you I don't really care about Velma. But this show is riddled with edgy Twitter humor that I expect from the likes of online blue hair activists. The show is full of race jokes that don't land, jokes about general society that stink, and I'm probably gonna sound like a boomer, but I just didn't enjoy a world where Velma and her friends were cussing up a storm like sailors. There's also a lot of borderline nudity in the show. There's a lot of shots of the kids in the locker rooms with their bodies exposed, only with their nipples covered by their hair. I'm not sure how y'all feel, but the show clearly states this takes place in high school, and I don't want to see no naked teenagers. Once again, how is this show greenlit by HBO?
How would I know?
But what makes the jokes so bad in this show is they're all thrown out at a lightning pace. It's almost as if they tried to hide the poor writing by constantly talking over one another. When a punchline is thrown out, you have to let the joke breathe just a bit so the audience can digest it all and give them a chance to laugh. A lot of people criticize Family Guy for its pacing, but Family Guy has nothing on Velma. At least with Family Guy, there was usually an overarching story per episode, and then they would sprinkle in random jokes to keep the viewer guessing, but there was something there to follow at bare minimum. And Velma, she and everyone in the show just keeps babbling on and on and on, and once again, the jokes are not funny, at least with Family Guy, at least in the older episodes. I don't know the newer stuff, but what I grew up on, the random jokes, yeah, they were random, but they were funny. And it doesn't help that everyone has the same personality in the show either. Everyone in Velma has the same snarky attitude as Velma, so it felt like Velma was just talking to Velma for 25 minutes straight. This is bad because it's hard to connect with anyone, but it's also going to cause issues long term for the writers. How can there be any character development in the show if everyone acts and speaks exactly the same? If I had a chance to sit down with the show's creator, Mindy, that's the question I would ask her. But hey, I'm just saying. Man, I feel bad. It feels like I just ragged on this show for several minutes, and truthfully, that's not productive. That's not constructive criticism. So I decided to record this after my script was finished and just throw it in the video last minute. I'm sorry for inconveniencing my editor, but if I could say one nice thing about Velma, it's that it ends. It's that the show goes off. Let me stop. All right. Jokes aside. The art looks decent. That's a compliment, right? Like, I like the art in the show. But no, seriously, my favorite thing about this show is eventually it goes off the air, you know?